Hey everybody, Roxabox90 here, back with another top 10 Magic the Gathering card countdown. Today we're going to delve into the top 10 flavor cards in Magic the Gathering. By flavor, I'm talking about how a Vorthos player views the cards. And for those who don't know what Vorthos is, I'll provide, of course, descriptions down below. You guys can check out the quote-unquote fourth player type in Magic, but Vorthos really, what the Vorthos player appreciates and what the cards bring to that person is not what the mechanics do or how they fit into the gameplay necessarily. They fit into the aesthetics, how a card, in terms of its vision, its creative influence, its creative consistency, in terms of mechanics, story, artwork, text, name, etc., all fit into breathing a larger picture of a card into existence and helps you connect with the card in a very memorable way. And this list, I'm hoping, will be part one of a series, but regardless, these are my 10 immediate favorites. The list, of course, is subjective, and the coming list will also be subjective. If you guys have other cards you think I missed or that you want to mention, feel free to. In terms of criteria, as I said, I'm going to be weighing all the different aspects of a card that I can in terms of the fit for the Vorthos player and for the flavor aspects of the card. Because of that, for honorable mentions, I'm not really going to have that many because I'm hoping to make this a multi-part series, but the goblins are not going to be on any of the lists. Why? Because there are so many great goblins in terms of how they fit with their flavor, in terms of how they reflect the goblin culture and kind, and I would be reluctant to show goblins in every single list because inevitably some goblins would end up on multiple lists. I'd rather just keep them all laid out. You guys can I'll show a whole bunch of them here, as you're probably seeing them already. And there are many, many more. Goblins are hilarious. They're awesome. I'm afraid they'll take over the list too much. I'd rather keep them on the side. So they're the only honorable mentions. Everything else is fair game. And starting off number 10, Protean Hydra. This card is one of many Hydras in Magic the Gathering. They've been very good about including the Greek monster, which is a many-headed serpent, the offspring of Typhon and Echidna. When one of its heads is cut off, two regrow to replace it, and most warriors can't really handle that. The second labor of Hercules was to kill Hydra, and he did so by cutting off the head and then burning the neck so it couldn't regrow. So the card itself, this one I think embodies that story arc the best. How so? Because it is a Hydra. It enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters. Think of 1/1 counters here as heads in terms of the story. If damage is dealt to it, then prevent the damage, remove that many heads, quote unquote. Whenever a 1/1 counter is removed, the next end step, it gets 2 1/1 counters back. And this is for each 1/1 counter removed. Of course, this fits the art story. The artwork as well is the horrifying Hydra, and even the heroes look kind of Grecian in their design. I think that this card fits that mythos the best and kind of reflects it in the best way. Number 9, we have Nolrod. This card is a larger part of the Magic the Gathering story. It connects with the Gerard story, which is why the flavor text, Gerard says it doesn't do anything. Hannah says, no, it does nothing, which is awesome in terms of the flavor text, and is quite true in terms of the card itself. Null means to make, like null and void, to make nothing. 2 mana, players can't play any artifact abilities requiring activation costs. In other words, if you want to make an artifact do something, this card prevents that. Artifacts have to remain silent and do nothing on the field in terms of its play, but it's also in terms of what the item itself does. Awesome overall design in my opinion, and I love how both the name, the definition of the name, the artifact itself, and the flavor text all connect in a perfect unison. Number 8, we have Pacifism. This card there are many iterations of. This personally is my favorite from Khans of Tarkir. If I fight, I might step on a butterfly, and that would be sad, which is hilarious when you look at the artwork. Pacifism is one who refuses to fight, and in many cases means even in defense of oneself, which is why a creature can't attack or block. One who is overcome with pacifism cannot fight, which means they can't attack or defend themselves. And I like that pacifism can go on any creature that's overcome by this spell if they are in a pacifist state. Fantastic design from top to bottom. One word that embodies the entire essence of the card. Number 7, Abyssal Persecutor. Making deals with the demons has been an ongoing theme throughout Magic. Most demonic cards have this problem. They almost always, if not always, have some form of drawback because you're making a deal with great power comes a great risk of pain and torture and death. And Abyssal Persecutor is exactly that. 4 for a 6/6 flying trample demon. Incredible cost. You're like, wow, that's fantastic. Your opponents can't lose the game and you can't win the game, or vice versa. Which essentially means that if you're going to summon him, only way that you can end up winning at this stage is if somehow you stab the demon in the back or you kill him, which means that half the time you're working with him, you're also realizing that the demon's not on your side, not really want to help you, and the only way you're going to defeat him is to become a backstabbing, evil murderer, essentially, or of sorts. And his slaves crave death more than they desire freedom, and he denies them both. That's what demons are, and that's how you kind of have to approach them in general. And having this dual-edged sword, which he kind of has a pretty scary sword, then this demon, I think, embodies it the best of the dark tutelage, dark demonic tutor, dark confidant, how that kind of entity wanting power, you summon this guy, and you can potentially pay the price. Number 6, we have becoming something else. Planeswalkers, as we players are, being able to summon great spells and do great things. What if cards themselves can warp us? Way more powerful and way more beyond what usually can be done in the Magic game. Very few cards do this well. Lich and Form of the Dragon are the two that really stand out to me. Lich, you lose all life, which means if you play this card, you have no life, which is hilarious in and of itself. But the fact is that this card, if you become undead, you become a very powerful necromantic kind of guy, which is what a Lich is, then you suffer the degradation of doing that. You don't die, but you lose parts of yourself, your magic, your pieces, your flesh, who you are in the game, in order to continue in this state of zombification. Form of the Dragon is similarly, you morph into a dragon, which means that your life total becomes that like a dragon. Creatures without flying can attack you because you're soaring above them. And the fact you can spit fire and do damage, it's a card that, while maybe not amazingly playable, it does something that very few cards do, and it kind of tells a story in and of itself. Number 5, Angelic Destiny. This card is on the verge of grace, the verge of becoming angelic. You can see how the field's almost warped. The view of this windowed palace thing is skewed, and you can see from the feathers flying around, this woman is about to just become an angel. It's just on the verge of becoming glorious, and that's what Angelic Destiny does. It turns anything, any creature, into an angelic powerhouse. And the fact is that when an enchanted creature dies, return this to your hand because it's waiting for the next angel to come along, the next person to be worthy of this glory. It is going to be there for them. And the card itself is on the verge of explosion into the end of the story. It's the tension of becoming something new, and that's what this card does brilliantly, in my opinion. Number 4, Delorr of Secrets. Many people have spoken about this card for a long time. It's one of the most flavorful cards for those who haven't read it. Of course, it gives signals of the metamorphosis. It gives signals of the person who becomes a monster from going too far in the scientific realm, and in the sense that you have the Delver who is looking into secrets, trying to figure out things, and then he goes a step too far in trying to experiment, and he himself is turned into a monster. And the card itself, it has that hiddenness to it because it's a flip card. You see the front half of it, and you see the beginning of the story, and then when it flips, you don't really see the transition point. You see the end point of what happens when someone goes too far and metamorphoses into something else. And it's also playing in the field. The mechanics is quite terrifying, having this monster come flying at you after just being a normal human wizard on the field. Really, really creepy, awesome design, fantastic artwork. Number 3, Feldon of the Third Path. This is more for those who know about the Urza Mishra story of Magic the Gathering, one of the most epic, awesome stories, in my opinion, that Magic has ever told. Feldon is of the Third Path, the path that is neither Urza nor Mishra, two brothers who fought each other in a war. We've had great videos done on YouTube by other channels who have delved into this story. Feldon is one of those who refuses to take sides. He wants to do his own thing, go his own way, go beyond the brothers who were fought over artifice. He was trying to connect more with Lauren, who is, in this case, she was one of the first people in their story to really connect with magic, or the mana of Dominaria. And here, he lost her because of their war, and how he wishes that he could get her back. And that's what this card is. He's trying to be something beyond the murderous war of these two extremes, but it has cost him tremendously in a way that he can never get back, no matter how much he tries. The mechanic itself is constantly try again and again and again, but it's sacrificed at the beginning of the next end step because it's not the right one. It never will be. Number 2, Shahrazad, if that's how you pronounce it, I believe so. This is the classic tale of the Arabian Nights, and how this princess, who was married to the Sultan, every other one of his wives has been killed, but she, by weaving a story every night, puts off her death until morning, and he allows her to continue, and the next night rinse and repeat until eventually she earns her freedom. In this case, of course, we're going to read the errata text. This card cuts to a sub-game because you're playing the real game. At the end of the game, you may lose and die, but here you get to push it off by doing a sub game. Now, of course, the card is very frustrating and forcing people to play extra games just to try to finish the first game, but in terms of its story arc, the entire card embodies what the story told, the artwork and the mechanics and the name connect to the myth, and it's amazing. Number 1, Elbrus the Binding Blade. This card is unbelievable. 7 mana to play because it's expensive. It's hard to find a demonic dagger. It's a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets 1+0. Not a big bonus just having the dagger. Daggers aren't necessarily powerful weapons, but when it deals damage to a player, when blood is drawn by hurting a person or entity, then you equip 1, and those who grasp its hilt soon hear the demon's call. Very quickly, you equip for 1 because it's seductive. It's very easy to lose yourself and grab the dagger. You don't want, kind of like the Aladdin lamp, you grab it, and quickly when its blood is spilled, Withingar Unbound comes out, a huge monstrous demon, flying, intimidate, trample. It's big, it tramples things, it intimidates those in its way. Whenever a player loses life, this is a card, it's such a powerful demon, kind of like an evil genie, that it comes out of the dagger, and whenever it kills players, planeswalkers, controlling massive amounts of mana, whenever it kills them, it eats them and becomes more and more powerful. There are not enough lives on Innistrad to satisfy his thirst for retribution. This is a huge story in and of itself. There's anticipation, there's development, there's story arc, there's the name. So many amazing things going on with this card, and even the 1313 on the front kind of signals in a warning way of what could come if this card manages to hit home. Freaking amazing design and a huge flavor win. So those are my top 10, or my first 10, part 1 video going through the best flavor cards in Magic in my opinion. What do you guys think of the list? Do you guys enjoy it? What do you have other cards you want to suggest? Please put them down below in the comment section, and if you enjoy the video, then please tap the like button if you're new to the channel. Check in and subscribe, and as always, Roxapox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.